There's nothing more frustrating than editing your images in Lightroom and enlarging the one shot you like the best to find it's blurred. Not out of focus blurred, but camera shake blurred. In many cases, you can actually turn an unusable image into a usable one with the help of software, but not with Lightroom. You have to go to Photoshop CC, where you'll find an amazing new feature, shake reduction. First, I want to say something up front. Shake reduction works better on some images than others. It can reduce blurring resulting from several types of camera motion, including linear motion, arc shape motion, rotational motion, and zigzag motion. An ideal candidate is an image that has blur caused by camera shake. If there's high ISO or some motion of a subject in the shot as well, shake reduction is less effective. Having said that, let's look at two examples and see how shake reduction works. This is an ideal candidate. It was shot at 1/6 of a second and the primary subject is stationary. I'll use the Lightroom Edit and Link to bring it into Photoshop, and then I'll select Filter, Sharpen, Shake Reduction. Give the filter a little time to do its magic. It's doing some pretty sophisticated calculations in the background. It automatically analyzes the region of the image best suited for shake reduction, determines the nature of the blur, and extrapolates the appropriate corrections to the entire image. I'm also going to enlarge the image a little bit just so you can see it better, using these controls down here at the bottom. In this case, the automatic settings did a pretty good job, as you can see when I select and deselect the preview checkbox. But like with most things in Photoshop, there is a way to get under the hood and fine-tune the settings. In order to do this, you need to understand what a blur trace is. It represents the shape and extent of the blur that affects a selected region of the image. Different regions of the image may have different shape blurs. Automatic camera shake reduction takes into account the blur trace for just the region of the image that Photoshop has determined it's most suitable for blur estimation. To further fine-tune the image, you can have Photoshop compute and consider blur traces for multiple regions. To do this, select the Advanced Settings in the Shake Reduction dialog window. If it's not already open, you just do that by clicking here on the triangle. The default blur trace is listed. Check the Add Suggested Blur Trace icon in the Advanced panel in the right-hand pane. Photoshop highlights a new region of the image suitable for blur estimation and creates its blur trace. You can see the region selected in the preview window. You can click a blur trace to zoom in on it, or you can click the trash icon to delete one or more selected blur traces. To manually select a new image region, click the Blur Estimation Tool icon in the upper left corner of the Shake Reduction dialog box. Draw a selection rectangle anywhere on the image. Photoshop automatically creates a blur trace for the region you selected. For best results, create blur traces in regions of the image that have more edge contrast. You can add more blur traces if necessary. For even more control, you can create a blur trace using the Blur Direction tool. To do that, choose the Blur Direction tool from the left panel of the Shake Reduction dialog box. Click and draw a straight line representing the blur direction of the image. If necessary, adjust the blur trace length and blur trace direction by clicking on the bounding boxes and dragging. You may have noticed that right when I choose the tool, before I drag, Preview was turned off. There's a logic to it doing that because now I can see better the actual trace. Okay, I don't like the effect that this tool is giving me, so I'm going to get rid of this trace. And I'll just select the trash icon and get rid of it that way. Okay, I'm still left with these two blur estimation regions. Let me see how the preview looks. I think we're looking pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and just get rid of this second one and see if that makes a big difference or not. All right, so once you're done, just go ahead and click OK, and there'll be some more calculations that take place in the background, and you're pretty much done. Let's zoom in on the image in Photoshop, and I think it looks pretty darn good, actually. I'm going to try this on one more image. This image has a person as the main object, but because they were standing still while the camera moved, I'm confident the shake reduction filter will do a good job. I'm going totally with the automatic settings here. Okay, so shake reduction filter is doing its job. In the background now you can see the results. This is purely out of the box default settings, leaving everything up to shake reduction filter. Go ahead and turn the preview on and off. And you can see it's done a really good job. I really don't have to do much, and I'm not going to do much to this. I'm going to leave it as it is and select OK, and we're done. Photoshop's shake reduction filter isn't for every blurred image, but when it works, it can be a godsend.